All right, guys. So recently, we covered not Matt Walsh. I mix them up very often. Michael Knowles, a different Daily Wire stooge, who's paid literally millions to toe their line. Now, last time we covered him was when we watched this. And for those of you guys who've not seen this yet, you're in for quite the amazing reveal in a second. Last time we covered Michael Knowles, it was to watch this.
You afraid to go inside?
This is Michael Knowles.
It's not that.
I can leave.
That was... Wow. Thanks. Have you not done it with men?
Mind if we don't get into that?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's,
So last time we covered Michael Knowles. We're reviewing this and his acting skills there. But Michael Knowles has returned, okay? He's returned with a vengeance, all right? He needs to prove that he is not into dick, okay? He has now a mission. He now has a mission to prove that he's not into dick. So he has taken up arms, along with the rest of the Daily Wire hosts, against the evil company Bud Light, who dared to hire a trans woman. Not only that, but they hired a trans woman who I'd literally never heard of a single time until the right started losing their shit over her existence. Like, literally, I'd never heard of Dylan Mulvaney until the right started, like, freaking out about her. They are the reason why I know her name.
Government has updated its list of warning signs of...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I feel I should give a little more background before we even start. Basically, recently, Bud Light, beer company, did a partnership for, like, an exclusive, like, you have to buy it online version of their beer can that has Dylan Mulvaney on it. Like, they did a partnership with her, and the right fucking lost their mind. They lost their fucking mind. And they put out a statement doubling down on what they did, and the right is, like, desperately responding, this isn't an apology. So you had Tim Pool who said, this isn't an apology. Apologize now. That was his quote tweet of the Bud Light post. And Michael Knowles' perspective, I guess, is it's a non-apology statement. Like, they're so triggered. They demand an apology for Bud Light hiring a trans person. It's amazing how triggered they are.
Of political radicalization, to include reading books by C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, George Orwell, Joseph Conrad, and Aldous Huxley.
What is he talking about right now? It's not the right. It's literally the right that's arguing for banning books in schools right now. There's no overwhelming, like, actually successful push from anyone on the left to ban books from schools. The books getting banned from schools are, like, anything that contains gay people in Florida, textbooks, and, like, they're banning evolution, teaching evolution in one of the red states. There was a state, I forget, I think it's Missouri, maybe Michigan, I forget. It's an M state. It's one of the M states. Just passed a law that will make it so that if a parent complains about anything a teacher teaches to a student, then that teacher can be held, can be reprimanded for it. The parent can sue the teacher for what they teach in school, and this is primarily going to, like, target teachers who dare to, like, teach evolution. So we're literally back in, like, the era of, like, red states are actively passing laws making it so that, like, teachers can get in trouble for teaching evolution. So yeah, it was not Michigan. It was an M state, I'm pretty sure. It was one of the states that starts with M.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings. 1984, Heart of Darkness, Brave New World. If you are a Brit who reads the classic novelists of the 20th century...
The British? Okay, no, I completely believe that, like, British lefties are doing this shit. Because British lefties are the ones that are falling into, like, turfism. Like, progressivism in the UK, like, is completely warped. Yeah, so I actually do believe this a little bit.
Novelists who specifically focused on Christianity and the threats of totalitarianism and dystopia. The current dystopian totalitarian government.
Is he talking? What is he even talking about? The government's not banning these books in the UK. I'm pretty sure he's just talking about like some like organization that wants to. Wait, when's he gonna get to the beer thing? Is he just gonna rant about this for a while? Is this like his like rant about everything lefty for the day video?
Work. And then sit on the ballot box, to quote Franklin Roosevelt giving advice on how to steal elections to one of his mentees, Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Dude, being a conservative grifter is so easy when your entire job is just to repeat the stuff that right-wingers already believe to them over and over again. It doesn't matter how boring and dry and personality-less you are when you do it. Like, people will just watch it and you'll make a living, like a good living doing it. I mean, Michael Knowles is a multimillionaire. We've seen the contracts that Daily Wire pays their employees. Like, we've seen the contracts. Like, they have to toe the line that Daily Wire tells them to, but they get paid tens of millions for it. He's not even talking about the Dylan Mulvaney thing here. Like, when does he talk about it? Is this, like, for one bit? Is it right here? Right here's where he seems to talk about it. Okay.
See how things go. Romney has been pretty coy about his future plans. And he's right to be kind of coy. Because everybody, I mean everybody, is going to run for president in 2024. And so when Romney says, I don't know, am I going to run for Senate? Am I not going to run for Senate? What am I going to do? Maybe I'll retire. Maybe, well, we'll just see. We'll reevaluate the field. He is keeping that option open. If he did choose to run for president in 2024, this would be very bad news for candidates like Nikki Haley, for candidates like Tim Scott, who are running more in the moderate lane. I'm not saying Mitt Romney would get the Republican nomination. That would be, we're going to, the shares of Anheuser-Busch InBev dropped nearly 5%. After Mulvaney announced that Bud Light deal, wiping out $6.65 billion.
You know what's really funny about the Bud Light stock dropping? For one, this is cancel culture. What they're calling for is cancel culture. Like, these are the same people who are complaining about trans people, like, boycotting Hogwarts Legacy. Like, literally months ago, they were on trans people for boycotting Hogwarts Legacy. Now they're doing the exact same thing to beer because they dared to hire a trans person. At least, like, the lefties were complaining about the creator of the property in question being, like, outwardly, like, against the existence of trans people. Here, it's just, like, they hired a trans person, and that's so offensive that they need to, like, boycott it. But here's the best part. That 5% drop in Anheuser-Busch's stock, as much as I wish it would have stayed down because I hate companies and corporations, it didn't last very long. Anheuser-Busch has already completely recovered. Probably in large part due to conservatives buying so many cans of Bud Light to destroy on video for their TikToks and their YouTube channels. Because remember, so many of these right-wing demagogues don't actually believe in any of this shit. So, like, Kid Rock went out and bought 20 cases of Bud Light after this announcement was made to shoot it on the range. Or in his, like, backyard or whatever. Like, he bought 20 cases of Bud Light to shoot. And there was a trend of conservatives buying Bud Light to destroy it on video for their viewers. Like, oh yeah, I had this Bud Light in my fridge. Now I'm destroying it. Yeah, I'm sure you had 20 cases of Bud Light in your fridge, Kid Rock. You didn't just buy those at the store on your way. You totally didn't just buy those at the store for your YouTube video. I don't know. I just think it's funny that, like, so many conservatives bought Bud Light just to make videos denouncing how much they hate it. There was even, the conservatives are trying to do another grift. You know how, like, the right gets mad whenever someone gets banned off of Twitter? Or back when people would get banned off of Twitter for, like, threatening to lynch a black person or whatever. Well, the right loses their mind whenever that happens. So, the right came out with this new amazing product to fight against Bud Light called Freedom Beer. Just like they did when they get mad about, like, they would get mad about, like, someone getting banned for saying the N-word or, like, saying they want to lynch a black person, and they'd say, we're going to make our own Twitter. We're going to make our own Freedom Phone. Well, now they're making their own non-woke beer, and the funny part of it is, well, just watch this ad. Let's just watch this ad for the Patriot anti-Bud Light beer, okay?
America's been drinking beer from a company that doesn't even know which restroom to use. That's why I created Conservative Dad's Ultra Right 100% woke-free beer. As conservatives, we're constantly getting hit in the face, left and right, by the woke mind virus.
This is not satire. This is not satire.
Right by the woke mind virus. But the last place we want it is in our beer. If you know which bathroom to
It's
use,
not
you know what
satire.
beer you should be drinking. Stop giving money to woke corporations that hate our values.
Stop giving money to woke corporations. Corporations are woke, man. Making money is woke. They had
And to
to
the
buy
rest
a
of you
Bud
woke
Light to do that.
corporations.
You know they had to do a bunch of takes, too, to get a good shot. So they had to buy a bunch of Bud Light in order to get enough to destroy to get the right take. So they bought Bud Light just for this ad.
And to the rest of you woke corporations, stay the away from our kids.
ultrarightbeer.com. But here's the funny thing, okay? Here's the best part of the ultra right beer, all right? Here's the best part. This is what makes it the best, okay? Okay, so I've spent some time investigating it, and I think there's a really good chance that the reason the conservative beer grift guy is being so cagey about where the beer comes from is there's a good chance it's being brewed in an Anheuser-Busch-owned facility. Made 100% in America in Northern Illinois. There are only 2 places in Northern Illinois that can make that could have canned and made this beer. One of them is an Anheuser-Busch factory. And the guy who made it won't specify which factory it comes from. Because if he lies, then it's illegal to lie where where a food product was produced. So this is almost certainly made in the same factory that Bud Light is made in by the same company. And it's the same beer pretty much. So that's pretty funny. Remember guys, literally all of this is a grift. It is all a desperate grift to appeal to the most loud, hateful minority of conservatives.
Of market capitalization. Before the conservatives start celebrating, remember, this might just be temporary. Okay? Boycotts are really, really hard, especially against big established companies with a zillion brands like Anheuser-Busch.
This is him walking it back because by this point, Anheuser-Busch had already recovered. Anheuser-Busch had a 2-hour dip of 5% in their stocks and then immediately went back to where they were before the Dylan Mulvaney thing, which is actually like up for where they've been in the last 5 years. So like Anheuser-Busch had, if anything, a small pothole in their relatively smooth road of their stocks rising in value consistently over the last 5 years. Or at least as long as they've been publicly traded that I can look at.
Because you need to pursue them over the long haul. When conservatives can focus their fire on one company in particular that maybe is not the largest company, and you can maintain that over a long period of time, like, for instance, the conservative revolt against Harry's razors that led to the creation of the finest razor product in the world, Jeremy's razors.
For those that don't know, back in 2020 or 2019, Harry's Razors did an ad where it showed in the ad a dad teaching his trans son how to shave for the first time. And they lost their minds over it. And they still to this day pretend like Harry's Razors no longer exists. Jeremy's Razors, I believe, is a right-wing, so literally every time one of these corporations, quote-unquote, goes woke, the right makes a new version of that product made for right-wing people, and the only different thing about it is that the branding is right-wing. So now you got your right-wing beer, your right-wing black coffee, Rifle Company coffee, you've got your Freedom Phone and your Freedom Twitter or whatever that's run by the Trump family. Like, they're literally all just desperately trying to convince dumb people that popular products are falling off so that they'll be willing to pay money into their new cringe products that they're literally just marketing as the same thing just for conservatives. Like, oh, you're conservative? Shave with this conservative razor. It's the same as like dudes who have to wear a camouflage diaper bag for their kids' diapers, otherwise they'll feel too emasculated wearing a normal diaper bag. It has to be like a camo military diaper bag, or they'll feel like too much of a pussy while they're carrying around their baby.
When you can do that, the boycotts can be effective. But when you're just angry about a video with a transvestite from your beer company.
Bro just said transvestite. Remember, guys, these people are getting desperate to find new ways to be cruel to trans people. Because they know, like, all right, trans people are getting pretty used to us, constantly saying we want them dead and we want to burn their existence to the ground. Let's find something else. We got to find something else mean we can say about trans people to upset them. Let's start calling them transvestites again. You think that'll get under their skin? Because literally their only, like, moral prescription is upset and offend as many minorities as possible.
You might stop buying the beer for a week or two, but eventually, very often, the companies will be able to survive that. However, in this case,
yep,
Anheuser-Busch is clearly worried, as we've got new headlines today that the Bud Light leadership did not know about this. This was done behind their backs by lower-level people in marketing, and they're investigating everything right now. According to anonymous sources in the media, no one at the senior level of the company was aware.
Remember, by the way, this guy's, like, desperately arguing that, like, this company needs to be boycotting for hiring a trans woman. And the reason why he says that it's bad that they hired trans women is because in his mind, trans women are men cosplaying women. That was the exact quote he said on Twitter, is that Bud Light refuses to apologize for hiring a man cosplaying as a woman. So it's literally just they have this, like, deluded, like, cruel mindset that they have, and they just can't let it go. They can't, like... They have to find a way for every single instance of, like, even a, like, trans person having a job with a prominent facing, like, a public facing position has to be, like, a moral failure. It's honestly not far off from the shit Sunny V2 was saying, right? Like how Sunny V2 was saying that Mr. Beast honestly deserves to fail if he doesn't cut ties with Chris Tyson, who's trans. Like his friend who came out as trans. Like, it's basically the same thing. Like, you don't deserve to exist if you are accepting of trans people. It's gone from, like, we don't care as long as you do it in the privacy of your own home and you're an adult, to you don't deserve to exist or have a job if you are trans. Not only that, but if a company dares hire you and you're trans, then they deserve to fail. Jesus.
Aware of Bud Light's polarizing partnership with Mulvaney.
Oh yeah, the Jeremy's Razors thing is the same thing, like the same company as the Jeremy's Chocolate thing, which is like a Daily Wire. It's literally like the Daily Wire's like razor and chocolate company. The like Jeremy's Chocolate thing was in response to the woke M&Ms thing, where like they couldn't jack off to the M&Ms anymore, so they made the Jeremy's Chocolate like the anti-left right-wing chocolate, which of course failed, obviously. Like, all these things fail. These, like, alternate brand things. Like, the Freedom Phone failed. Like, Trump's Twitter alternative is pretty much a failure. Trump won't even return to Twitter, so now Twitter itself is a failure, because Elon Musk took over Twitter and started instilling right-wing values onto Twitter, an already successful platform, and now it is losing success. Now Twitter is literally falling apart and failing to stay afloat because of Elon Musk's right-wing values being applied to Twitter. Like, the funny thing is, right-wingers don't think a company should deserve to exist if they espouse progressive values, but any company that doesn't, or that espouses conservative ones, tends to fail. That's the funny thing.
Companies looking into pausing those marketing efforts. They're trying to implement a more robust process for evaluating future influencer partnerships. That, to me, that anonymous source to the journos, that doesn't read like someone just leaking information from the boardroom. What that reads to me is a crisis consulting team was brought in to Bud Light to figure out what the hell to do about this, because the backlash against Dylan Mulvaney was far greater than Bud Light expected. But I don't buy this stuff for a second. No one at the senior level knew about this. Give me a break. This contradicts what Bud Light had previously said. Bud Light had already issued a statement defending the Mulvaney sponsorship decision. The VP of marketing at Bud Light.
So, what is he referencing here? Because he could literally just be referencing a Breitbart article. He hasn't said what he's reading from that's supposedly, like, leaking this, like, behind-the-scenes Bud Light shit. Is he reading a Breitbart article or a Daily Wire article? It might be a Daily Wire article, funnily enough. Like, where is this source coming from? That, like, the Bud Light executives are in a mad panic because society hates trans people, and they made the big mistake of hiring a trans person. Now they're in a mad dash to fire and do damage control for hiring a trans person. That's literally all this is, by the way. He's talking about all of this in the context of this company is panicking because they made the mistake of hiring a trans person. These people are so filled with hate and so deluded into thinking that like the majority of people agree with them that they just run with it.
Had on video touted her mandate to make the brand more inclusive. But even, okay, let's say she's a rogue VP at the company. The company itself issued a statement. The company issued a statement confirming the partnership with Mulvaney and describing it.
Yes, because progressive values tend to make companies more money than being Nazis. Yes.
As an attempt to, quote, authentically connect with audiences across various demographics and passion points. And that didn't play. The initial sponsorship didn't play very well, certainly among a lot of Bud Light's audience. Then the doubling down on it didn't play very well. And so I'm sure they've just brought in a crisis consulting team to say, okay, here's how you've got to back away from this. And it's brilliantly done by whichever crisis consultant, communications consultant wrote this up. Because Bud Light, if Bud Light doubles down, as they did with their statement on the Mulvaney partnership, then they alienate their core base of frat.
They don't. They literally don't. The vast majority, like Bud Light is fine right now. Anheuser-Busch is fine right now in terms of their stocks. They've completely recovered after like a day of it going down. So there is no crisis happening. He's literally making up a non-existent crisis. But that if that crisis did exist, even then, it wouldn't be an argument for what he believes. The idea that like bigots are so bigoted that they are successfully able to boycott a big company because they dared to hire a trans person, even if this premise was true, it wouldn't be an argument for his position. It would be an argument for the position that transphobes are so obsessed with trans people that they literally cannot live in a world where like there are people out there that are grown adults living their own lives and living by their own freedoms being trans. Hey, Soak Done Left. Good to see you. So even then, this isn't a good argument for his position. It's just what he's arguing for right now is the vague idea that actually transphobia is more popular than being pro-trans, because being conservative is a popularity contest. These people only care about being on the winning team. So all Michael Knowles has to do to make an argument that sounds right to his audience here is make the point that, yeah, a lot of people agree with me. A lot of people think that trans people aren't bad. I bet the company's going to fail if we, keep pushing this idea long enough. That's pretty much it. Like the idea that lots of people agree with you out there, trust me, is their argument. Because they want to be on the winning team.
At boys and construction workers and regular dudes who like to drink a domestic beer at the bar. But if Bud Light runs away from Mulvaney, they'll irritate.
Literally, regardless of how this goes, in 1 month, none of these people remember like that Bud Light did a woke thing. Like these people, there are 3 big companies like Disney and like maybe a couple others, these companies that like the right has labeled as woke companies that they hate. And even then they don't fail. Like Disney is the most woke company by these people's standards, and it just can't fail. It's the biggest, one of the biggest companies there is in media. Like it is the media empire. And they desperately try to scream, go woke, go broke, but it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Because no matter how much these people desperately try to make it seem so, bigotry is not as popular as just not really giving a shit.
The liberal mob, which does not represent the Bud Light customer base, but which wields all the political power in the country. So then
the woke mob wields all the political power in the country. Meanwhile, like across the country, trans people are being banned from access to gender affirming care. Not just like minor trans people, by the way, adult trans people. Adult trans people are getting banned from access to gender affirming care.
Bud Light could be canceled for that, and
but yeah, they've got all the control.
They'll find themselves in a worse mire than they were before. So what do? They create what I am convinced is a false conflict between the senior leadership and the people at the lower level, and they say they're looking into this and they're investigating this. So they get credit among the conservatives for saying, yeah, this is crazy. We agree with you, conservatives, but they don't.
Yeah. Wait, that's actually probably exactly what's happening. That would be the smartest thing for them to do. That's called capitalism. It's really funny that conservatives are super pro-capitalism until the values of that company don't align with theirs. But lefties are always against capitalism. Like, leftists are always anti-capitalist, regardless of whether or not the company's values align with theirs. But the right is pro-capitalist and pro, like, doing whatever it takes to make have the best bottom line, until whatever it takes to have the best bottom line is, like, shilling to progressives. Then it's like, whoa, no, this should be banned. This shouldn't be allowed. No more free market.
Arouse the ire of the liberals because they portray this as, well, the young people at Anheuser-Busch are turning this thing around and they support trans rights, and just hold on a little longer and those senior people, they'll have aged out of the company and there will be. This is classic crisis communications consultant gobbledygook from a company that is scrambling to make sense of a very bad decision, but a company that has not learned a damn
Their
thing
stocks
about
are
why
fine, by the
people
way.
are a little miffed that Bud Light is using a basic beer for normal people to shove this insane transgender ideology down our throats. Now,
you can just say they hired a trans person. Michael Knowles, your audience is at the point where they want to kill trans people so badly, and they think trans people literally don't have the right to exist so much that you can literally just say, this company hired a trans person. This is unacceptable. And your audience will clap. You've built that radical of an audience, Michael Knowles. You can just say it.
speaking of sex stuff,
you don't have to
there
dog
is
whistle.
some great news. We always talk about really bad news when it comes to weird sex stuff in America because the libs are using sex all the time to push their radical agenda. But here's
Remember, guys, it's literally always projection. It's always projection. So whenever this guy says about the left is what the right is trying to do, so the right is actively trying to use sex to push their ideology. And it's obvious when you look at Andrew Tate, because his whole thing is trying to use sex and women to push conservatism. These people really can't help but self-report by making accusations. I love it. I really do love it.